So I just done a reading and I'm feeling comfortable. So I'm just going to make another video that I said I was going to make ages ago. Said to myself I was going to make, but haven't as yet. So, you know, ages ago I saw a whole bunch of videos being made about the sort of New Age versus Christianity videos that were popping up, or people that had said that they've left the New Age in order to um, become Christian and all this kind of stuff. Um, the thing I think that kind of prompted me this time to actually finally make this video was recently I watched the Netflix documentary Pray and Obey. That's the fundamentalist Christian Church of God in Christ with the what do they call him now? He was running basically a cult. So the documentary is about the cult leader that took over the church from the original one, and all the madness and the craziness he was getting the people to do, and it was just terrible. It was just horrible, and the reason why all of that kind of connects together is because coming from a Christian background, myself, I think we're taught to believe in a certain way, and people don't tend to look at Christianity itself in terms of being a cult in and of itself. I think people kind of look more at the extreme versions of certain denominations or whatever and think, oh well, that's what a cult is. But in actuality, if somebody, whoever this person is, if somebody is telling you that they have all the answers and they have this personal connection with God that you apparently don't have, like they are the messenger of God, they're the channel of God, basically whatever they say is God's message, and you have to do what you're told because they're telling you how to live your life, they're telling you what is right and what is wrong. And especially if you're a grown person and you feel like basically you've given over all your power to this other human being in such a way, basically what you are in that situation is you're being brainwashed. This is mind control, and this is manipulation at the highest basically. And there are a lot of faiths that they want to tell you, okay, this is the way you're supposed to live your life, this is the way you're supposed to be. Now I believe that you can use these things as a guide. You can use the Bible or a spiritual book as a guide. You can, if you want to develop a relationship with God or whatever being you choose to serve, that is fine. But when you go as far as to give over all your power to somebody else, and you think that other people should be doing the same in order to be saved, or to have some afterlife that they go to that is, heavenly, you have to understand that what you're being told, you can choose to believe that. It doesn't make it true. It doesn't mean that when you die, that's where you're going to go to. That's what you're being told. I mean, in this that fundamentalist Christian church, what do they call it now? Church of God in Christ, whatever. They believed that the more wives a man had was sort of the higher in power or order or whatever he would be when he passed away. And when he passed away, they believed that he almost would become a god in and of himself, and he would be able to create worlds and dimensions after he passed away. Now, it's not for me to question whether that's true or not. Again, like I said, people can believe what they want to believe. They can believe whatever happens after people die. That's what happens. You have your right to believe that. But the biggest problem is when you get people that abuse their power. From the time a person wants to take other people's power away, that is already a problem. But when you abuse it and you are hurting people, and you are and you have these people that basically listen to your every word, and you're treating them almost like this is like some version of Big Brother, where you're monitoring all their activities, and if anyone speaks out against you, you have them, exiled out of the community and their families, and no one can have anything to do with them, which that's another thing that a lot of Christian churches do practice, where if you ever decide to leave them, they kind of try to, to then turn their back on you and basically act like, oh well, you're no longer a part of their community. All of these things are manipulative tactics. And even when they turn around and say, like even what Dorian Virtue did, where let's say they become Christian and then all of a sudden they want to tell you that what you're practicing is evil and demonic, that is also another form of manipulation, and basically trying to shame and to demonize you as a person and demonize your practice, to kind of make you think that what you're doing or what you're practicing is bad and it's wrong, and for them to kind of feel that, for one, they're superior to you, and two, that they have the right to condemn you. And so then you have to start thinking differently, like you have to start thinking like them. So again, it's a mind control. And you think to yourself, the if you are in any kind of faith and any kind of belief, any kind of religion or whatever, if these people are telling you not to think for yourself, if you can't question anything, if whenever you ask them a question they just don't want to answer you, or they look at you like you're a troublemaker or a nuisance, then instantly you know that the only thing that is going on here is you're being manipulated. Because if these people are supposed to have all this information like they say they do, like for instance, if you are a minister and you have all of this biblical knowledge, you should be open to people asking you questions. You shouldn't be like a person has a question and you acting like, oh well, why is that important for you to know? Because let's be honest, there's either two things that usually happen when you ask these people questions about the stuff that is in the Bible or the things that they tell you to practice. It's either one, they don't really know what these practices really are themselves and they're just sort of doing them and going along with it, whatever. Or it's the second one, which I think is probably more the real reason, is that they actually do know, but they just don't want you to have that information, because there's a lot more that these people know than what they even teach in the church anyways. The leaders of the church, they know a lot more, but there's very little that they actually share with the church congregation, because they want to keep you in a certain level of ignorance so that you're even easier to manipulate. Because that's another thing that I saw within that documentary. The people were very ignorant because they're listening to everything that this one man is telling them to do. And when he left, because basically he was under investigation and he went into hiding, they said that when he went into hiding, he was basically traveling around different parts of America, and he was doing all the things that he was telling them was wicked. He was going to strip clubs, he was going to Disneyland. Imagine to tell people that they can't even go to Disneyland. Like, this is how controlled these people are. Even Disneyland they couldn't go to because that's bad or whatever. Stupidness, just dumb stuff like this. So all of these things, the man is basically being a total hypocrite. He's telling you you can't do any of these things, yet he's out here doing all of them. And you think to yourself, the reason why he was able to get away with it is because the people were so ignorant. And that is how they dominate, that's how they control, that's how they manipulate. It's like there was a lady ages ago I was listening to. I wish I had saved the video, because what she said was like eye-opening, because she was talking about the Bible, and she was talking about the story in Genesis of um, Eve and Adam and the snake, and the apple. And the funny thing is the snake, we were always told, especially in the Christian faith, the snake represents the devil, and the snake is looked at as being bad, like it's almost like Satan coming into the Garden of Eden, which was almost like heavenly and pure. And then he tells Eve to eat this apple. He tempts her, because that's usually how they want to spin it, especially when it's a woman. They always want to sort of, for some reason, associate women with being either temptresses or being tempted in some kind of way. So she's tempted by this snake to eat this apple, and that she knows she's not supposed to, and then she does. And then apparently that's when her their eyes become opened, and they start to see things that they hadn't before, and they realize that they're naked. So they're hiding their bodies. They now, according to what the Bible practically says, that's when sin comes into the world, is through her eating this apple. And they also were associating painful childbirth with the sins of Eve, again, to sort of make women carry the burden of the shame of the apparently original woman, bringing sin into the world, when your Bible is written by men. Okay, we're the reason sin is in the world, us women, and our punishment is painful childbirth. Okay, so what she kind of broke it down as is, really, in that situation, if you really think about it, why was it that God, again, the God is supposed to be the one that we're on his side, because he's our father, right? He created us. Why would he have made them ignorant in the first place? Like, what was the purpose of making them not know anything, And then for some reason, the bad one, who is the snake, is the one that introduces them to knowledge and understanding. And even the tree, because it was meant to be what the tree of life or whatever. And then this is the apple that is from the tree of life. And when she eats it, basically now she has this wisdom and this knowledge, and basically the snake made her have. So then you think to yourself, it makes you question, who's the good one and who is the bad one then? Because again, if you keep people in ignorance, they don't have any ability to make their own decisions. It's like children. If children are never taught anything, they're forever going to be dependent on their parents. But we know that children need to be taught in order for them to learn, in order for them to mature and grow and be able to look after themselves. They have to learn to be independent. So really, that's what the snake gave to them. He gave them independence. He gave them the ability to think for themselves and do for themselves, and not just be, like kids, like children, And you can even connect that even with the tarot, because you guys know I love tarot. And it's almost like being the fool, The fool can represent being ignorant, but then the fool also, and it can be a child, like a childlike energy. But then at the same time, I always feel that the fool has other information that he knows, but it's just not worldly information. But in their case, when they ate that apple, they came to know things of the world, Now, we do look at things that are worldly, like symbolically, as being demonic. But then at the same time, this is the world that we live in, and we have to know how to navigate it ourselves through sometimes hardship, difficulty, sometimes doing the wrong thing. All of that is a part of the experience of life and living, and growing and changing and maturing as an adult, So it just goes to show, sometimes you need to question the source of things. Why are things the way they are? Why do they not want to tell you certain things? all of these things. And as far as like the new age being evil or whatever, the new age, there's nothing new about it. All of these things, like divination existed before religion existed. All of these things that we are tapping into are things that are ancient. They're not new, you know. And these are things from nature. Obviously, they decided over time to create cards and all these other things, but divination existed even before cards. People were able to tell fortunes, what's to come, predictions, and things like that. And that's another thing that is very hypocritical about the church as well, because they are quick to say that they can prophesy things. They call it prophecy or prophesy or whatever, and being a prophetess if you're a woman or whatever. But then if you're psychic, because that's what we call it in sort of the more new age, oh, that's evil, and all your messages are coming from demonic spirits. But when you're a prophet in the church and you're predicting things, apparently all your messages are coming from God, apparently. So it's all of these things. And the Christian faith itself is built off of pagan practices. That's why you have to research and you have to learn things for yourself. All of these practices within the Christian faith are based on pagan practices. The information is out there, it's not hard to find. So when somebody is trying to tell you, I remember, again, I don't want to be always coming for Doreen Virtue, but I think the reason why like she comes to mind for me is because to me she was a big spiritual teacher within sort of the community of the tarot and oracles and what you they call want to call the new age and all these kind of things. And I remember coming across a video she made once she converted on her Facebook, where it was her and another guy talking about why Christians can celebrate Christmas and can have Christmas trees as decorations in their home. And what this guy was basically trying to say is he was trying to when they try to finagle things to try and make it sound like, oh, like this is Christian somehow and it's not pagan. Christmas trees are part of pagan practice. They were part of pagan practice even before Christianity. In all honesty, there's no Christian basis of why Christians would be celebrating Christmas with trees in their homes and decorations and presents under it. There's no biblical reference to Christmas trees, or even really celebrating the birth of Christ and all that other stuff. All of that is a pagan worship, and pagan practices are not evil. They're not evil. They if anything, paganism is just about uh, almost like honoring nature more than anything else, and people have been honoring nature for centuries, even before these Abrahamic religions came about. So don't let anybody trick you into believing what you're doing is wrong. When I was on another group on Facebook, a witchy kind of group, there was one lady that was talking about being conflicted between practicing that basically practicing witchcraft and things, and um, while also still trying to hold on to her Christian roots and practices, and uh, sort of having to get comfortable with the two together. And she was saying that she finds it quite difficult embracing both sides of things. And I had messaged her because she pulled some cards. So basically, I was just giving her an interpretation of the cards that she pulled. But what was interesting about her cards and the message that came out of it was basically it was saying all of these things are all a part of one thing. We're always taught to believe that things are separate. Like this is over here and that is over there. When in all honesty, it's all a part of one thing. There's no separation and there's no difference. But I think it's almost like a part of our human experience means that we always tend to look at things in kind of a dualistic, polar opposite kind of way. It either has to be this or it has to be that, you know. and there's a lot of things in life that is not so and dry. It's not so, or you have to pick one thing and you have to stay within this lane, or or else you're going to be cast out. That's what they want you to believe, that you have to be one thing, you have to practice only one thing, you know. But you, all of these things, you can marry them together. What difference does it make? That's basically what our ancestors did. If you research, if you have a background like you are African American, you're uh, from the Caribbean, like my family is, and stuff like that, or like your people have were part of like the slave trade or any of these kind of things from whatever region they were from. Those people, they married their religion and their old traditional practices together. They didn't separate them. So if you learn about the things that they were practicing and the way they were practicing, they were not just going to church and just not doing, just reading a Bible. A lot of the time they were still embracing the nature, the natural, the homeopathic, the traditional medicines and things, side of things as well, herbal things as well. They didn't separate those things. So why are we being told that we should do something different? Yes, they weren't discussing those things when they went to church, but they were doing them. My mom basically told me that my great granny used to practice divination. You know, when she was telling me the way that my great granny used to pray at her home, she used to pray in a way that was totally different to anything that church teaches you to pray. And you think to yourself, well, where did she learn these things? She learned these things because these were things that were outside of the church, that they were practicing alongside what, still reading the Bible, still believing in God and everything else. So it's like, but the problem is that we are misguided with false information that tells us you can't do these things, you know. And sometimes when somebody is telling you that you can't do something, like I said, you have to question, why are they telling you this? Like, what do they stand to gain through telling me I can't do this, especially when it comes to your own spiritual practice. So that's basically my 2 cents on this whole New Age and Christian topic. And you guys can tell me what you think in the comments. I would love to know what you guys think. So peace and many blessings to you. I'll be seeing you.